We're going to look at finding the domain of when we're given a graph, and then we're going to go back through and look at the range of finding the range of a graph when we're given that. So let's look at domain first. So domain, remember, are your x values. So when you're doing or looking at graphs, what that means for you guys is it's the x-axis that you're looking at because those are your x values. So we write domain and range of graphs in interval notation. So just like a number line, we go from left to right because that's going to be the least to greatest value. So if you look at letter A, we want the domain of this first graph here. So we want the farthest left the graph starts at to the farthest right. So the farthest left this graph is right here at that x value. The farthest right is right there. So that farthest left x value is going to be -6. And it goes to the farthest right, which is 6. So it's from -6 to 6. So do we get parentheses? Do we get brackets? Those are your two options. So just like when we did inequalities, if it's an actual physical point, and it's not an open dot, it is included, and we want to use a bracket. So since both of these are physical dots, they're not open, like this guy is open over here on that letter B. But these are both closed dots, so these are going to both get a bracket. So -6, bracket, +6, bracket. So we're going to go through and do the domain for each of them. So how about B? The farthest left, this graph goes is here. The farthest right, it goes is there. So that farthest left x value is -7. The farthest right x value, the greatest x value, is +5. So at -7, it's a closed dot. It's not an open dot, so he will get a bracket. But that x value at +5 is open. So that's sort of indicating to us that we're just going up to that x value. So we're going to do a parenthesis. So for C, it's a little tricky, but the entire graph is right there at that single x value. So no other x value is part of this function or this relation. So the only domain value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is -5. We're going to include every single point in there, so -5 will be included, give you guys brackets there. Letter D, farthest left, farthest right. So it looks like -4 is the farthest left, and +4 is the farthest right. So unless it is an arrow going off the graph, so whether it's infinity or an open dot, we are getting brackets. So these will get brackets also. Unless you see like a physical open dot drawn there, we just assume it's part of the relation or the function and we want to include it. So how about letter E? This graph starts right here and then continues, and we know it continues because of the arrow. So the farthest left that graph goes is 0. If it continues to the right, it doesn't matter if it's two directions right, but it's continuing off that graph. So if with those arrows, it indicates that it's going off the graph towards positive infinity. So infinities always get parentheses. And where it starts, right in the center there, that x value is 0, and we are going to include him. So domain for letter F farthest left is 0. It's going off the graph. So farthest right will be positive infinity. So that infinity, that arrow will get a parenthesis. And how about 0? They drew an open circle there. So that 0 is going to get a parenthesis. We're not including 0 in the domains, just everything up to that value of 0. And then how about, that's supposed to be G, H, I, we have another D, E, F, that's okay. So for letter G, farthest left right here, farthest right right there. So that farthest left value is -3. And then it continues to the value 1, 2, 3, 4, +5. 5 is at closed dot, -3 is open. Letter H, farthest left, the graph goes is right there. Farthest right is that x value, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so -4 to +2. Both of them are closed and included there, so both of those guys will get brackets. And then the last one, letter I, farthest left is that x value right there. Farthest right value is right here, so it looks like -3 to 1, 2, 3, +4. So that's the interval. That's where the graph lies. Do we get parentheses though or brackets? Are we including -3 and 4? No, because at -3 they are open, and at +4 there's an open dot. So let's go back through now and do the range. So the range is your y value, so it goes from the bottom to the top, essentially, with a graph. So range is going from bottom to top, whereas domain goes from left to right. So if we look at this first graph here, the lowest point is right there. The highest point is right there. So which y values on that y-axis, we're looking at those values there, are those points. So the lowest point here is at 0. The highest point is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Both of them are closed dots, so they will both get brackets. Letter B, for your range, the lowest point is right here. The highest point is right there. So that lowest point is at -3. The highest point is at y value of 1. At -3, it is closed. At 1, it is open. So -3 gets the bracket, 1 gets the parenthesis. For C, lowest point, highest point, so -2. That y value, and then the highest value, y value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is +6. Since they're both open, they will both get a parenthesis. Okay, moving right along here. Look at the range for letter D here. Lowest y value, the lowest point the graph reaches, to the highest point. So that lowest y value is -4. And the highest y value is +4. And again, we just assume, unless we see an open, specifically an open dot or gap there, that we included. So they'll both get brackets. Okay, so the range for letter E is a little tricky because there's no highest or lowest point specifically. Like the lowest point would be down here, but it's going to keep going forever and ever if you would like extend the graph off of the picture there. So what that means is in both the negative and the positive direction, if both of those are arrows, there's no definitive start and stop point in the range or the y direction. So the range for this is going to be from the entire negative direction to the entire positive direction. So from negative to positive infinity. There's no start or stop. It's going to continue forever down and it's going to continue forever up. For f, the only y value, since it is a horizontal line, is at that y value of 4. So that's kind of like letter C up there for the domain. It was just a single value. For this one, the range will just be a single value of positive 4. But we're including it every point on that line because it's continuing out in that right direction. And then your last 3. G is the same way. It's just that horizontal line. So the only y value that is on or included in this graph is that y value of -1. For H, lowest y value is -2, highest y value, positive 4. So -2 to 4, and they are both closed dots, so both brackets. And then I, lowest y value is 0, highest y value, there's 2 points there, but the highest that graph goes is positive 5. But because it's only open dots at positive 5, 5 will have a parenthesis, whereas 0 will get brackets.